Dear girlies, welcome to the Notes to Her podcast. I'm your hostess Rianne, and we are back with another episode. Trying to get back on the consistency bandwagon, obviously, and also now being back from my trips, I'm like, okay, let's get back into the swing of things. Girlies, how are we all? How have we been? What have we been up to? We're back with another episode. I'm trying to get back onto the consistency, go back onto my usual recording schedule and everything as well. Bring you girlies your Friday fix at 7 p.m. If you haven't already, please do like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification button, follow me on Instagram and the podcast Instagram as well, which is Rianne Walker. But instead of an E in Walker, it's an X for my personal handle, and the notes-to-her.pod, that is the Instagram handle as well. So we can keep up to date. One thing I've realized, especially from my trip in Ghana, I don't mind, and I really do need to keep up with the consistency and sharing things, and improving that. But I try, so we can just try a bit harder. Yeah. So, how are we all feeling? Have we all been keeping up with this heat in the summer in the UK? Have you been going on holiday? Has it been staycation vibes? Have you been having a Euro summer? Because I know that is something that's going on at the moment. Or have we been going outside of Europe? Who knows? I have done both. I've been within Europe and outside of Europe, which has been so great. Those who know, probably fed up of me talking about it now. I've been going on about it probably for like the literal past, don't even know how many episodes. Been in Ghana. Also, by the time this episode comes out, would have just come back from Amsterdam as well. So yeah, lots of activities and stuff that would have been ongoing. For sure. I feel like I love going on trips. I love exploring new countries and everything like that. Sometimes it's nice just to kind of like be able to get back home and get back to the gym, because a girlie has been enjoying the food. Oh my days. And been probably indulging a little bit too much. So now we'll do like hot girl winter. Try and get back into the gym and the swing of things too. So how am I feeling? I'm feeling good, I believe, as well. Just so much different things going on at the moment. And kind of like, when your mind is like pulling you in so many different directions. So yeah, just trying to get like onto steady ground, if that makes sense. But we've been good. We're alive. We're breathing. We're well. We're blessed. So no complaints here. And also, like, I think it's just so nice when you've just come back from a trip or done something that you have like interest in and really enjoy as well. So yeah, I'm feeling good, on a bit of a high too from that, I think. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about self, and the whole podcast, and the reason as to why I started this is because of the things that I realized that I was also going through in life, and kind of feeling like sometimes there's loads of platforms, there's loads of self-help things, there's loads of big sister podcasts, there's loads of people that guide people, as well. But I think sometimes it feels there's such an overwhelming amount of choice, and you kind of don't really know where to start, that sometimes you kind of just start your own thing, really, I guess, too. So I hope certain things resonate. Anyway, so we're talking about self, and I think learning about yourself, especially, I've said it in so many different episodes. When I turned 25, it was kind of like the prefrontal cortex, like, literally developed, and loads of things basically started to occur. And this whole journey of self-discovery has really been such an eye-opening experience for me. Learn about myself, know my traits, habits, certain things in so many different ways, and uncover different layers as well. And the more that I seem to uncover and go into a bit more of a deep dive, I'm like, oh wow, like I didn't know that. So I just find that just so interesting to know about self. And so that's what today's episode basically is about. Self. Who is self? What is self? and what we can do to learn about ourselves even more. So, as always, in an episode, I love to give a definition. I think it adds so much context and just helps with understanding as well. The definition of self is a person's unique identity, inner personality, and conscious awareness of being distinct and separate from others as an individual. So when I was reading that, then certain words and things that stuck out in that definition was unique. When I think of the word unique, it's something or someone that is special. They're one of a kind as well. There's kind of like no one like them. No one. You can have similar traits, similarities, have similar interests or the same interest, but there'll always be something that is slightly different about them. So they're unique. There's only one of them. Another one then that stuck out was distinct. With that then came separate, and it sets you apart. So I feel like those two words, unique and distinct, are quite similar, and sometimes can kind of be used interchangeably as well. And then identity, it was so funny because when I wrote that, I kind of had to come back to that one. I even put a question mark, and I think for me that was even more so profound because it was kind of like it goes into what I'll be discussing today, that sometimes like we don't really know who we are as a person. We don't know our identity or anything like that at times. But then also it's kind of like it just makes up who you are. I was also thinking of like a photo ID, or when you're registering for something or whatever, you need an ID, something to identify that is you. It's got your picture, it's got your name, it's got your address. There's a specific type of code or something like that to state this is who I am. This is actually me. And then inner, inside, internal, it's within you. So those are a few of the words from that definition that really stuck out for me. I was like, oh, okay, what do I think of these things? What's the first thing that comes to mind? And when I had to go back to identity as well, it was like, and I said makes up who you are, it also kind of connected with me about it's not what others have told you to do or be, it's who you are. It's learning about those things. And I think in today's society it's so challenging to do that, or the most obvious one being social media, but then there's other things then that blend into that too, family upbringing, expectations, friends, your environment, the things you consume. And even before social media as well, there was other forms of media, magazines, newspapers. There's always something that's informing you and kind of shaping you and molding you into being who you are as a person. And I think, and the older I've become, I'm literally only 26, but the older I've become, the more that I, begin to learn about myself in such an in-depth way, the better I begin to obviously understand myself. And I think that's one of the best things that someone can ever do for themselves, and as a gift to themselves, a non-tangible or non-material gift that they can do for themselves is learn about themselves. I remember when I was younger, and it's so normal to do so, do as you're told, go here, do this, this is the belief, this is the value, upbringing for things, do this, don't do this, these are your morals, and you're kind of told how to do it, what to do, and not really sometimes understanding the reasoning as to why. And sometimes you are told as to why, it depends on the dynamic of family, it depends on the structure of those things, it depends on, there are so many factors that create who you are, your identity, yourself, that then when you kind of sometimes don't really know your inner being, your inner self, what your own thoughts are. And as you become an adult, it becomes so hard to do so because you're almost like a big kid. I feel like you're kind of just a big kid paying taxes and having to work, and then also then not having the time to navigate your inner self really, and understand who you are. And going based off what other people have said is so easy to do because it's something that we've done all our life. And we try and then navigate that or compensate when we're not told what to do by going on social media or going based off what other people say, rather than listening to our inner self. Not the inner critic, but the inner self and that inner voice that's kind of guiding you and signaling certain things to you. When I was writing this episode as well, the way that it was flowing out, earlier I had said about one of the best things that we can do for ourselves is learn about ourselves, who we are as a person. What are our interests? What are our hobbies? What do we like? What don't we like? What's our pet peeves? What's our goals? What inspires us? What motivates us? What's my beliefs? What's my values? What inspires you? What gives you the ick? What stimulates you? Not just in one form, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, what gets the mind going? What's the fears that we have? And not just like, oh, I'm scared of spiders or I'm scared of heights. What's those deep ones that you're kind of almost scared to even ask yourself? What am I avoiding? How do I feel? What calms me down? What's my triggers? Who are you? Who am I? Seeing and seeking those answers. I think we're in our day-to-day, we don't have that headspace. We're not in that time to think really and ask ourselves those questions. And there's even deeper questions to be asking, really, to uncover those things and peel back those layers. I think us as humans, we have sometimes such basic needs and we can overcomplex things, but sometimes we are complex people based on multiple factors that can occur within our life. And just being able, I think, to take the time to do that is something that is profound. Because as well, I remember when I was younger, I would take what people say so, and hold on to that and be like, okay, well, this person said this. And I think sometimes when we are like that as people, we don't realize how much of an impact that has on, how we view ourselves and how we see ourselves, and having to actually think like, okay, well, do I actually think that about myself? Do I actually believe that's who I am or what I am? Or is that based off what someone else has said to me? Is that someone else's belief that has been put on me, or someone else's thought that's been put on me, and I've taken that and ran with it and used that as a narrative, your entire life? I think we as a society nowadays kind of like get scared to question and challenge ourselves, kind of like get under the surface, get under the persona that we've put on. And I know I've spoken about this in another episode, but I cannot remember right now for the life of me as to which one. But the persona that we create for ourselves, I feel like as people, we're kind of scared then to question that or change the narrative of that, because we're also prideful people. We have ego. We have pride. And with that, then, it's not something that we like to be in the uncomfortability zone when we're actually having to challenge that persona, because it's going to hurt the ego or pride as well. We'd rather instead keep that up, see the things that we see on social media and distract ourselves with that instead, and try and fulfill ourselves with those things and those distractions, because it's just too much to think about. It's too difficult to do. I've had a conversation with a few people actually, and they were saying want to do something, but they're having challenges doing it. They're procrastinating a little bit. They'd rather scroll on social media or try and distract themselves with something else rather than doing the thing that they're saying that they're going to do. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Let's talk about that. Like, let's discuss it. You need to try and unpick that and understand the reasoning as to why. And said to them, but you're never ever going to be satisfied by continuously looking online for something and trying to fulfill whatever layer or hole or void is there. I think as well, social media, like, we go to that to answer those questions that we have for ourselves, to fill the void, to fill the hunger. When you're hungry for something, or when you're really craving something, it can kind of be you're gonna go and eat anything. I feel like it's the same concept when you are searching for answers about yourself, and we just do that by consuming things, like consuming, and sometimes then you're never actually fully satisfied. You'll always go out and continue for something more, try and find something more, rather than talking internally. Not to say keep everything bottled up and inside your brain, but I think it's just listening to that inner voice that's guiding you, and if you are religious as well, listening to God and the spiritual side that comes with that too. I'm someone that takes social media breaks. Sometimes you'll see me on there, I'll post and ghost, or I'll delete it for a few days, just to give myself that headspace to be able to think a bit more freely. Earlier on, as well, I had mentioned about how there are so many factors that cause us potentially, to not, that kind of stop us from learning about ourselves. Social media being one of, I think, the biggest blocks nowadays. We're trying to seek answers to questions that are forming within ourselves, but we're trying to seek it through other people, whether that's friends or whether that's social media, and trying to fulfill ourselves and gain answers rather than just asking ourselves and answering those. It goes back to that, the word inner, your internal aspects, the inside of you. What is the inside of you telling you? What is it saying? And listening to that. But then instead we would rather kind of it's just a cycle. It's literally just a cycle. And then we end up comparing ourselves then to the things that we're seeing on social media, those highlights that people show us of themselves, or, a fake reality. Because that's what it is. And then in actual reality, we're trying to translate that, and we're never fully satisfied at all. And I think social media has made us disconnect from ourselves as people, as human, or, our own individuality. Continuous trends, fashion styles and things like that, and people tend to kind of like dress the same. I think I was on holiday somewhere and I was like, everyone is literally dressing the same. This is insane. But sometimes, like, I'll be like, oh, that's a cute trend. You've got the polka dots at the moment, the butterfly clips. I don't even know what else is going on. Stripes, I think, is in. Capris are back. Like, it's so cool sometimes seeing the trend cycles come back into play, but then fully seeing people dress the exact same when they're out in groups and I'm out in the gym. I'm like, this is a simulation. Like, what? Bring back individuality, bring back uniqueness, bring back self. It's so interesting sometimes how we can get so consumed by other people, societal pressures, societal trends, and how we've kind of, I feel like, lost ourselves along the way sometimes, and it's so hard to kind of claw back from that, unless you put in the work. But then it's funny because sometimes then I feel like it's hard to do that, and humans don't like hard things. They don't like challenges, especially when it comes to understanding and challenging yourself, and the perception that we've had about ourselves. It's hard, it's raw, it's difficult, why would you want to put yourself through that? Why would I want to put myself through something that's going to, make me see myself a little bit different than what I had been perceiving myself to be in the first place? I feel like there are some questions that rise from that people aren't willing to really talk about or ask themselves, because it's just easier to continue, or it feels easier to continue being or behaving in that way. But it's also exhausting at the same time. It's exhausting. I don't think people realize how exhausting it can be. I feel like the journey of self-discovery is something that will never end, really. It's like a lifelong thing, and it sounds exhausting, it sounds tiring, and at times it is going to be, because it's kind of like, well, now I'm really mentally challenging myself or emotionally challenging myself, when it's easier just to kind of sit in the comfortability of doing things the way that you have for so long. Things are a habit at times, and sometimes changing that habit requires a lot of patience and time and understanding and learning, and if you're someone that's impatient like myself, yeah, times that by like 2. But yeah, as I've been going on this, I don't know, self-discovery sounds so big. As I've been continuing through this journey or whatever, it's bruised my ego. I've had to put the ego aside a little bit. I'm holding on to it, but I've had to put it aside at points, because it's just like, there's certain things I've uncovered and I've been like, oh, that's not me. What do you mean me? I would never. Like, I'm not like that. Like, I would never do that. Like, but it takes so much strength in admitting that, and I think also accepting that, to be able to move on. Don't worry, is my pride and ego battered and bruised at times? Like, yeah, but I think that's raw and that's real, and it's so much better to be able to uncover those things, because then you know yourself better, and no one can tell you then any differently either. I think it's so easy, to go based off what other people are telling you when you don't know yourself. When you don't know yourself, you will go to other people to get that validation, and you will listen to their labels, and you will listen to the things that they're telling you about you, their perception of you, and you will take it and run. But when you know yourself, you know your habits, you know your traits, you know the reason as to why you do things the way that you do. You know what sets you off, you know your likes, you know your dislikes, you know your inner self. There's strength in that, and then no one can tell you any differently. There are things, I think, sometimes when people provide, their perception, whether it's unsolicited advice or you've gone to them, or unsolicited opinions and things like that, and it can be tough sometimes to either ignore that, or you may take it on board and you may think, okay, this is good to know, so I can help help myself in that way, and it kind of makes you stop and think. And especially, I don't know, it depends, right? It could be something where it's a potential bad habit, it's impacting them, it's a negative thing, but there's a fine line. I feel like there's definitely a fine line, and when you don't know yourself, it's something that you would absorb, is something that you can take on board without even realizing, actually, not like that. And when you challenge certain things like that too, that other people say, and you're like, actually, that's not me, that's not the label that I'm going to claim, it's a profound thing. And I think there's a massive difference between taking on what someone has said about you and also then admitting it yourself. Actually, I have my flaws. That's another aspect and another layer of knowing yourself. I'm someone that's still learning about certain flaws that I have, and also accepting that and being like, is this something that I want to change? And if it's a yes, then it's like, cool. But I think it's knowing that you'll never be perfect. Knowing yourself isn't about being perfect at all. That's not what I'm getting at. It's just knowing your identity, knowing who you are. Everyone does what they want to do. And navigating how your self-discovery journey looks like, or learning about yourself looks like, is down to you. No one else is going to do that for you. They can help you and they can guide you, but that's for you to do. So girlies, we've come to the end of the episode, and my camera has stopped working again, but we've come to the end. So if you haven't already, please do like, comment and subscribe and share. Hit the follow button, hit the notification bell, follow me on Instagram, Rianne Walker, but instead of the E in Walker it is an X, and notestoher.pod. Both handles are for Instagram. And I will see you girlies in the next episode. Loves ya.